That's right. It is Flyers game day as the Flyers, in back-to-back fashion on the road, are in Winnipeg to take on the Jets in beautiful Manitoba in mid-January. It's Jason Martinez, Chris Terry, and boy, Manitoba in January, Big Al. What are your thoughts there? Stay indoors?
Yeah, you're not putting the Speedo on, Jason, heading to the beach. That's for sure.
Shrinkage.
Constant. Yes.
Yeah. It's ungodly cold there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny, and I know Winnipeg is kind of like draws probably a lot of the butt humor of the league because it's Winnipeg and it's so cold, and so many legendary guys have come from that neck of the woods, right? Like Bob Clark, Ron Hextall, like even Manitoba, Dave Brown, like even Saskatchewan, same kind of thing. But that's what makes Winnipeg just such an offbeat type of destination because it's full of characters. It still has the appearance sometimes of being this older looking Canadian city. But the one thing that we both know right now, Jason, is that the Winnipeg Jets are cooking. And it'll be a really interesting game tonight. And with injuries, too, which is amazing. They have some serious injuries on their team that won't be in the lineup. And they are just sizzling hot right now. And I'm looking forward, after a great Flyers win last night in Minnesota, to see how they perform, with some confidence against a very, very good Winnipeg hockey team.
Yeah, this Winnipeg team's an absolute wagon. They have the highest points percentage in the NHL right now, and they just don't give up goals. We'll get into them in a second. I want to talk about the game last night because the Flyers, start the road trip. Always important to start a road trip well. And the first period of that game, Bundy, was about as low event hockey as I've seen in a long time. 21 total shots, 11-10. Flyers got outshot, but there was nothing. Like I think back in my mind's eye, I'm going, did anything happen in the first period? I can't figure out if anything did other than the horn sounding at the end of it.
Yeah. It was not a very engaging first period at all. Zeros at the end of it. Not a lot of shots. Flyers in the first last night had a good start, and then they had a kind of a shot advantage. And then Winnipeg had a power play, and they ended up dominating the shots towards the end of the first period. But it was kind of like nothing really got going until that fight between Delorier and Maroon.
Yeah.
And then it looked like guys kind of weaned themselves into the game a little bit from that point on. And it became a thrilling third period. I mean, we went into the third thinking it was 1-1 and you're thinking, I'm thinking, well, come on, you got to really get the first 5 minutes is super important to set the tone. And then it's 3-1. You're like, man, this is the one you wanted to get. And by an excellent play by Lawton, getting a 2-on-1 puck over to Forster to get it to 3-2. And then the third goal, got a brain cramp on that one, Jason. Remember the overtime? It was another good.
That's the typical. That's the Tippett shot.
The shot with from the his off wing. So that was a great goal too. And so it was a good win, and Minnesota, like if you're going to come back on a team, that was probably the team to do it against. They're not deep. They're not really good.
They're reeling right now.
Yeah, they have not played well for a good 2 weeks. They lost back-to-backs at home and home with Dallas, which is hard to do. It's hard to do that. It gives you an example of who you are as a team. So the Flyers exposed them. They didn't quit. That's the one thing with this Flyers team that we've seen all year. They don't quit ever. They just keep playing. And to their credit, last night they took advantage of a Minnesota team that looks like they were quite content having a 3-1 lead and decided that the game was over with about 11 minutes left in the third. And that's not something you can do against a playoff team. And the Flyers are a playoff team. I'm going to continue saying that. They'll be in the hunt right until the end, I believe. Yeah. And if you play like that against a team that's been in a playoff spot, you're going to get victimized. It's actually nice saying that, isn't it? That kind of flip the script a little bit.
In January too, right?
Yeah. We're talking about Flyers in playoff mode. And, and again, and to their credit, they had some good individual efforts last night, many of them. And it was really, what it was? It was quietly a really good win, even though there wasn't a ton of drama until the end. It was a very, very silently good road game and a good road win for the team.
Bundy, let me ask you about the first Flyer goal. It's the Farabee goal and the redirect to get things going, to get the game tied.
Yeah.
And, it's the long change in the second period. We've talked a lot about how this team now plays so fast in transition. And as that puck comes out of the neutral zone and Drysdale ends up with it on the left side of the ice, he's got an option there. In the second period, you got the long change. You always want to be a little bit more careful not to get caught out. And Minnesota decides to change two players. And I think Drysdale recognized that. He could have just regrouped and got his forwards changed and then got the puck in and got the D changed in that second period and been fine. But he didn't do that. He quick chip up the boards, one touch pass from Couturier to Konechny, who then makes an unbelievable pass to Farabee driving far post. It's 2-on-1. You get an odd man rush out of it. And it's if you're going to play that fast, high transition game, you got to almost do it all the time when you can. And they did in that situation.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable play. It was like a double bank off the boards in the neutral zone. Drysdale to Couturier. Couturier then swung it around again, and that's where Konechny picked it up as he entered the blue line.
In stride.
And just a beautiful little shovel pass between that player's legs, too, and the redirection by Farabee. That was a sick goal. Like, that should have been the goal, maybe one of the ones of the week, especially the whole development of the play. The finish was great, but, man, to have two, like, double smacks off the wall and a guy pick it up in stride was really something to see. That was a great play. Certainly worth watching that goal over again. But yeah,
that's how you play fast, though, right, Al?
That's fast hockey. That's not slug hockey. That's like really moving. Everything happens quick. You're not hanging on to anything. That puck comes on your stick. You know exactly before the play what you're going to do with the puck. And that's exactly Coots made an unbelievable play on that too.
Agreed.
And the whole goal was just great. But that's when we talk fast hockey, that's fast hockey.
Yeah, and that recognition. Okay, they're changing, and that's where the odd man rush gets. That's where you get the numbers to be able to do that. Let me ask you about Farabee because he ends up with the game winner as well. The first goal he scores drive-in far post redirect. The game winner he is planted right in front of Marc-Andre Fleury and deflects that Zamula shot in. And, all his goals this year, Bundy, are scored within mere maybe 2 or 3 feet from the goal line. I mean, he is all over the blue paint. What does that tell you about a guy that's going there, especially when you consider Farabee last year coming off that surgery and the neck issue that he had?
Well, I think with a guy like Farabee, and I've, just watching him play now for a few years, he's not a guy that's got a laser shot. Like, he's not a guy that's going to be able to snipe like you see some guy. Yeah, he's not a sniper per se. For me, he's a between the hash marks player. That's how he's going to earn his paycheck every 2 weeks is playing between the hash marks. And I always tell guys, like, you've seen him now, even younger players, like, you don't pay the price that you once had to pay to go between the dots and between the hash marks. So go ahead and do it. Like, I remember Rick Tocchet, scored over 400 goals in this league. And I remember Craig Berube used to say, that's not the most talented guy to ever play. But he put himself between the hash marks and took a beating in front of the net and scored an awful lot of goals doing so. Farabee's, for me, the same kind of guy. Like John LeClair took punishment in front of the net to score goals, but I don't think in the way the game is today that can be a hindrance to him. I think it's just a matter of plowing through there, finding the open parts in front of the net, having a good stick on puck, but being a distraction in and around that paint area. And I think that really is where his bread is buttered. He had a good game last night again, did a lot of really good things, but he's a guy that has to be in and around the traffic in the net and going to the net. Nothing that he does is going to come from playmaking on the outside of the ice. He's not a playmaker. He's a go to the net finisher, and that's it.
Yeah, I remember even in his rookie year, he had a lot of great scoring chances, but he lacked finish.
Yeah,
it was something, and I remember talking to him at the time, and it was something that he was going to focus on, finishing in tight. And he's always around that because I look at his game, Buddy, and I go, well, he's not a particularly fast skater. He doesn't have this insane release or shot, but he's incredibly effective. And you're right. I think he's just going to have to go there. The punishment is not nearly what it was in your day. I mean, you went in there. That was like going to San Quentin in your day. I mean, it was rough in there. It's not like that anymore.
It's nowhere even close. Like, and even in most guys, like I tell you, like guys like myself, like you play hard and stuff, but not mean by nature, but you were taught, like, guy goes in that paint, it doesn't matter. They got to pay a price. Yeah. And that's the way it was for any defenseman forward coming in there. And you'd have a battle. You'd have a stick battle going on, a positional battle that would really take up a lot of each other's time. Farabee's game is built for that model. And every forward's different. There's forwards that are better perimeter players, or players that are stars that are good at both ends of the ice, or at both going to the front of that and shooting. TK is a good example, I think, of that. A guy that's starting to do that more. He's become more of a all-type scorer with his shot as well. Tippett's another guy that's a shooting scorer, right? And he hasn't yet figured out how to score in the paint. That's my own assessment. People might argue
he needs that finish in tight too, doesn't he?
He doesn't, and he doesn't finish in tight. If you look at
Yeah.
a lot of Owen Tippett's goals, they're really good shot goals. Like, he's got a
Mm-hmm.
great shot. Farabee's are not like those at all. They're
No.
go to the net, get the garbage, stick on puck, redirections. So that's when
Yeah.
you talk about two different players and how they score. That's a perfect example of a guy that of two different type of scoring types. Briere was like more like a Farabee as
Yeah.
well, scoring type of player, not a heavy shot. He could snipe a little bit, but his stuff was more about getting in tight as well too. And now you don't have to be 6'5", 240,
No.
or John LeClaire or Tim Kerr. You can be Joel Farabee.
Yeah. Joe Neuendijk, one of those big
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like years ago, you had to have guys that were super competitive to play the way he plays now, to go into that paint. But now you don't have to pay the price you once did. And it's guys like that can play in the league now because that's the way it is. That's the way that the rules dictate.
Tippett ends up with a goal, and we alluded to it with that shot. And you're right. He is, even when he makes that turnover in the one game in overtime and just snipes for the game winner, there was no thought of Deke in that situation. If he can add that element to his game, I'd like to see him get to the blue paint a little more, because I think he's a big, strong skater, and really drive that area a little bit more. When he does that, that's when he becomes a complete player, right?
100%. Like I said, when you're able to find that way to score at both sides of it, the one thing that's interesting with a shooting scorer, you can get that guy to do different things to go in front. When you don't have a great shot, or you're not a sniper per se, that's a kind of a tougher learned skill to get while you're in the NHL. Yeah. The one thing that I always tell people, and what I'm saying about Farabee, is that he's allowed to play that way. Like, he can make himself that kind of player that has a willingness to go there, because it is still hard to get into the paint, to get a stick on a puck, to redirect goals. But that's really one of the things I think that it's, I guess what I'm saying is, if you're a sniper, it's easier to snipe than it is to really go in there and find those loose pucks and be persistent in the paint, to spin, to know where guys are checking you.
Find space, right?
Right. And Tippett can be better at that, getting scoring in the paint area, and then he'll be more of a complete full scorer in my book. He can do that, what Farabee's already doing, but I'm not sure Farabee's ever going to be able to have the shot that Tippett has.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I look at it too. And like Farabee, when I was coaching at all levels, everything, I would always preach everything hard. Just do everything, like, just be a pain in the rear end. When a guy's just standing there, don't just nudge him. Everything's hard and just wear him down. And he's willing to go there. And that's an underrated skill, being able to, as a diminutive guy in stature, to be able to get to those spots and make yourself an option. Even if you don't get the tip or the goal, you make yourself an option, because the D then has to account for you.
They know you're there. That's exactly right. And so you have to pay attention to a guy that goes there. Believe me, I'd love if a guy plays the perimeter. If you're going to score from the perimeter, great. Oh, but if you're going to come in the paint and challenge me, then I better be ready for a battle too. And that's what Farabee's done a really good job of.
All right, let's focus on the Winnipeg Jets. Take a timeout. We're going to come back. It is Flyers game day. Flyers back at it tonight against the top team in the NHL and the hottest team in the NHL. More on that. Chris Bundy. I'm an idiot. Jason Martinez, Flyers game day on the BetRivers.com Flyers broadcast network. It is Flyers game day. Flyers right back at it tonight. Hope you're enjoying the hockey this weekend, because you got Flyers a come from behind win in Minnesota in overtime, and tonight it's the Winnipeg Jets in a big, big challenge. Jason Martinez, Chris Therien, and Bundy. This Winnipeg team, let me just give you some numbers on this team, because it's unbelievable. Since the 2nd of December, they have a record in 19 games of 16-1-2. They have 67 goals scored, 31 goals allowed. They give up the least amount of goals in the NHL on the season. They've got great goaltending, whether it's Connor Hellebuck, who, in my view right now, is the Vezina winner at the midway point. And even if you get the backup, Laurent Brossoit, he's also got a .923 save percentage. So this team in Winnipeg is one that you can't maybe key on just one guy, because they're got tremendous depth and great structure and goaltending. So how do you attack the Winnipeg Jets tonight?
You know what? One thing you don't do is put them in transition. If they feast on turnovers like it's nobody's business. They're physical. They have speed. They have injuries, which is just kind of bizarre in and of itself that they're playing the way they are with a guy like Mark Scheifele out of the lineup. And again, it's buying it. I look at Winnipeg as a team that had a lot of these same pieces. And maybe sometimes it takes a coach to come in there that just kind of flips a switch a little bit. Rick Bowness has been a guy in there that players like to play for. But I think at the same time, when you look at Winnipeg, they had a great run before. They took a dip down, and now it looks like they found their groove again. So, I mean, with a record like that, Jace, that is absolutely stellar. And I'll say this, even though the Flyers are on the second night of the back-to-back, there's no reason they can't go in here and try and sneak a win out tonight. They should feel good after Minnesota. And I'm also a believer some nights that second night of the back-to-back isn't always the biggest detriment. If you get yourself ready, just show up at the rink and play. It's a great opportunity for the Flyers. But Winnipeg's numbers, I mean, they're mesmerizing to just about everybody because they're doing it by committee. And as you said, they're almost like the Flyers in a lot of ways, just a little bit way more advanced at this level than where the Flyers are. But they're a group of guys that have come together, quite obviously like each other, and they're paying dividends for them in the standings. I mean, they've had an unbelievable run.
Yeah, they kind of an under the radar team coming into the season. Everybody's looking at Colorado, obviously Vegas and Edmonton, and then you see at the top of the two divisions in the Western Conference, the Winnipeg Jets and the Vancouver Canucks. Nobody would have thought that. Do you ever come across Bowness in your career? He's been around for a long time.
He has. Yeah, he was in Ottawa early. I get to know him over the years when he's from there. Just meeting him around the building. He's a terrific guy. Players, really like him. He's a player's coach, but fair. And obviously, I mean, he's the guy that went into Dallas, and guys enjoyed playing for him there too. They made changes, they do for all coaches, but somebody the players seem to really, really like and care for. And as a result, they're responding to whatever's gone on in Winnipeg. And sometimes with a place like Winnipeg too, you have nothing. There's just a lot of focus on the game. It's a small town Canada. There's stuff to do, but at the same time, that's really your big focus through cold winters.
It kind of feels almost to me like a college environment there. Their building's a little smaller. Yeah, it's Winnipeg's kind of this. It's almost to me like a Pac-12 school or a Big Ten school in a way.
Yeah, and I think there's a little over 15,000 seats in that building. It's built right on top of the ice. It's a noisy, loud building. They love their Winnipeg Jets, the fans there, and Flyers will have that to deal with again tonight too. But yeah, again, I nothing's phased this Flyers team, and again, when I look at Winnipeg tonight, I actually like the Flyers. There's more I think about them heading in here after that game last night and just go out and play. Got the toughest win for me would have been last night, because you don't want to lose the ability to get a point against Minnesota before you head into, to Winnipeg tonight and then with the remainder of the trip in St. Louis. But this is a good spot, I think, tonight for the Flyers and to maybe jump on a Minnesota or a Winnipeg team that's just been playing unbelievable. I mean, usually trends like that don't go forever, and that is a long time, over 19 games, to be playing that kind of hockey. It points in 18 of them.
That's unbelievable. I mean, you're going to shoot up the standings when that happens. Over that same period of time, Bundy, and 19 games for the Flyers, their record is actually 11-4-4. They've gotten points in 15 of the 19 games, which is an unbelievable number. Here's the thing about those 19 games that I find really intriguing. The Flyers have scored 56 goals in those 19 games, and they've given up 52. That tells you there's a lot of tight hockey games.
There is, and you know what? There's gonna be a lot more of them. I mean, you're gonna need good goaltending some nights. You're gonna need some fortunate bounces. As you come down. This is a whole big body of work right now. Flyers sitting, and even as good as they've been their last 10, the Flyers are 4-3-3. And again, it feels like they may have played better than that at times. But again, this is a scenario you're dealt with a lot of these teams and their points. And the Flyers at 50 points, number 8 is at 47. It's so important to keep winning those games. And that's why last night's 2 points, I said, so huge. Because if you don't win that game, you're at 48 and you could be technically out of the top 8 if it doesn't fall your way tonight or Tuesday in St. Louis. So got to stay up in the standings. If you're there, you have to stay up in them.
How much of that, Bundy, is just a mental thing that you're in it and not chasing it for players?
think it's important because I do know, like, once you're in, it's a lot easier staying in than it is trying to get in. Because then
Great
you're,
point.
anytime you have to hope other teams lose or something goes the other way for, you're praying
Mhm.
that a game out west ends because someone in the east is visiting a team in middle of March and boy, we really need them to lose. Anytime you're able to control your own destiny, that's the way to go, especially with a long calendar year and a professional team.
I'm writing that down. Easier to stay in than to get in. That is,
Yep.
I love that. That's such a good. That's an unbelievable point. Can you answer me this, Bundy? Winnipeg, they allow the least amount of goals per game in the NHL, 2.29, incredible
Hmm.
number.
Hmm.
But their power play, I mean, this is the
Yeah.
number one team in the league, is clicking a little bit better than the Flyers. They're 23rd at 17.6%. Okay, so you go, okay, maybe they don't have a good power play. Well, their PK is not all that either. I mean, their PK is ranked 26th. So their special teams 23rd and 26th in the NHL, and they got the best record.
You know what? I mean, after 2011, I gave up on special teams, especially power plays, when the Boston Bruins won the Stanley Cup with, I think, a record of about close to 9 or 10%, if I'm not mistaken, through the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they won the cup. So, the playoffs become more of probably a lot more even strength hockey. But those are remarkable numbers, though, when you talk about special teams, when you're in you're in the 20s, but your team's that good. So, and again, what that tells me is that they're a tremendous even strength hockey team,
Yeah.
and that's where their bread is butter. The best place to be on a hockey team is when and you feel comfortable about your 5-on-5 play as a team, and the fact that other teams are going to have a hard time scoring goals on you because you're competitive defensively and you have a good goaltender and everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, and you have that structure. You just know Winnipeg's got just really good structure. They're providing a good environment for their goaltenders to do what they need to do, and they're a team, Bundy, that you know they got one guy that's a point per game player. That's Shifley at 41 points in 41 games. Ehlers has
Mhm.
got 33 and 41. Marcy 32. But I mean, this is just a depth play when you look at them. Kyle Connor, who's been out in and out of the lineup, Nemestikov, Niederreiter. I mean, it's just a depth team that just keeps rolling them at you, and you got to be able to, I guess, roll four lines against them.
That you're going to have to match them, and you're going to have to physically match them. You're going to have to match them with their speed, their tempo. They love playing at home. They do have injuries, but that does not mean that they're not going to be prepared to play. You got guys like, as you said, Kyle Connor out of the lineup. Mark Scheifele is out with a lower body injury. I mean, those are significant injuries. And again, when you look at their defense, they have some really good players, but they don't have like one super duper star. They're
Yeah.
just very, very consistent. I mean, Josh Morris, they have good players. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but they're very, very. They work
There's no
well
Hedman
together.
on their blue line, you know?
Correct, and they work well as a unit. And again, that's why I say, like, there's some similarities between the Flyers and Winnipeg. They're just not there yet. They haven't redeveloped to that point that the Winnipeg Jets are at yet.
They remind you a little bit of the Blues team that won the cup with Chief. I mean, Petrangelo was
Similar.
back there, but I mean that was a team. Ryan O'Reilly, really good player for that team that year, and they got good goaltending from Binnington once he came
Yep.
in, and they were a team that just I think hurt people with depth.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think that this Winnipeg team is a lot like that. I mean, great defensively, really solid, and they score goals. So I mean, it's the most formidable opponent we've seen the Flyers play, certainly post Christmas.
Yeah, no doubt.
And a team that's playing as well as Aaron. And again, even where the Flyers are, like, make no mistake, this will be a good game tonight. I expect this
Yeah,
to be a very good competitive hockey game tonight.
Bundy. And we're talking about special teams. I just brought up, some of the PK numbers for the Flyers, and this season they have 10 shorthanded goals. Calgary's got 10, so they're tied for the top spot. They've only given up 14 goals. They're -4. This is incredible. On January 13th in goal differential on their PK on the season through 42 games. I mean, that's an astounding number.
That's unbelievable when you think about that. Yeah, I mean, only
Oh,
-4. I mean, the goals you've scored on a power play, or the other team scored any shorthanded goals that you provided. That's a remarkable number. Yeah,
wow.
to this point in the season, in January, that's an unbelievable number.
I'm going to see where that it ranks tops in the NHL. Like, for example, San Jose is -34. Let me see who the closest team to the Flyers is. The Kings at -10 on their penalty kill for the year. They've only got 4 shorties. but they're -10 when it comes to. They've only given up 14 goals as well, but they just aren't scoring the shorthanded goals like the Flyers are. It's amazing. Last thing, Bundy, before we get ready for coming up at the top of the hour, how much fun has this been? I call it like a rebirth or healing when it comes to this season for the Flyers. Obviously, you're back with us, which we love, and these have been awesome. But just how much fun is it again?
You know what I love? And even this week, which all the craziness that went on and everything, you know what? We're talking hockey again. There's an Eagles playoff game Monday night, and we've been talking about hockey all week. Like, that's good stuff. I actually like that word you used, a healing.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more healing to do.
Yeah.
But they're on the right path. You know, like the things have been so much fun this year to go down and watch a competitive team, watch people smiling, watch people cheering for the Flyers again, you know, and not leaving the building and miserable and saying, geez, we wish we would have seen a harder competitive game. And there's a lot of people to credit for that. You know, there's been a lot of good efforts. The coaching's been excellent. Their goaltending's been very, very good at opportune times. It's been great. And there's been a lot of, as I said a couple times the other day, there's been a lot of, this team went through a lot of pain the last few years.
Yeah.
And there's a return to normalcy, but glory at the same time. The championships will come, but the one thing that we needed to see was this organization restored to its former glory of having a lot of passion in the building, the Philadelphia fans behind them, loud buildings every night, and a lot of fun. And we've been treated to that this year with great efforts by this team that we won't forget. And that's, I think, what a lot of us wanted was just put forth an effort, work hard, you know, give it your all. Don't ever give up, and let the cards fall where they may over time. But from a sportsman and a former player, I couldn't be prouder, and I couldn't have asked for more from what they provided for this city and for people watching and in tune with this team this year.
That's so well said, and something very similar words I'm sure that you use it with Bundy Recovery, helping people heal that way as well. I mean, very similar.
I mean, I consider myself lucky, you know, and if that's really my true gift in life is be able to have shared my story in order to help others, then I'm going to keep doing it. That's always will be the most important thing I do in my life. I love hockey. It's been my passion, gifted me with so much, but doing that other stuff for others, especially in and around this area, is very gratifying work. And it makes me awfully proud that I'm able to share this message on a platform like this and just let people know that we make mistakes. We hit tough points in life, but we get back up and we move forward. And that's what it's all about.
And there's people there to help doing the great work that you guys are doing. And many
all the
others.
time. Yep.
Yep. Absolutely.
Thanks, Jason.
All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll get you set for Flyers and Jets. It's Ersson in net tonight for the Flyers on the back-to-back. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.